Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration regular meeting for October 23rd, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Oops. I'm gonna wait a second, just because we're reconnecting on the Zoom platform. I noticed that we have to circle.
I'm on.
We're just on
I
a
see
hold
that.
right now because our Zoom platform.
There we go.
Oh, is it?
Mine's back up.
Okay.
Okay. Denise, I'll mute myself until you need me.
Okay. Connected and minded. That kicked off the light. Oh. Sorry, everybody. You're already signed. Am I? No, I have to put in my password. I don't know about that. Because it never lets me. It's coming in now. Yeah, technical difficulties. That's all. Okay. That is. the new one. Okay. All right, where were we? Roll call. Ms. Fusaro.
Here.
Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Schlosser.
Here.
Mr. Schramm.
Here.
And Ms. Williams here. I'd like to notify the public of a Board of Election executive session held on October 11th, 2024, from 2:35 PM to 3:11 PM for the purpose of educational information on the 119th Legislative District ballot issue. No deliberation took place. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
The motion.
Motion by Ms. Fusaro. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Morelli. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Opposition? None heard. We'll now move into public comment on agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters listed on the agenda. It's limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person. So we'll start with those who are in person. Anybody in person? Nobody in person for the agenda item?
Mr. Grantee.
Oh, no, I think you have to push the button on the side.
Hello,
Yes.
Okay. Joe Grantee, Plains Township. I'd like to comment on agenda item number 2. Motion to refer incident with the mail-in ballots, the 4 mail-in ballots from April general primary election witnessed by the same person to the DA's office for investigation. I think I'd like to thank you all for referring that. And it's an important issue. It's critical to vote election integrity and voter disenfranchisement when they see things are being handled lawfully. And this person needs to be investigated and find out the extent of how many ballots that they actually had and voted or for someone else, how many ballots they witnessed. So I'd like to thank you for that. I think that's it for agenda items.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in person? Agenda item comment, public comment? Anybody out in the outer room? Okay.
Mark Rabo, Hazelton. With regards to number 1, in terms of the polling places, you're going to approve the polling places, correct? Or that's on the part of the ballot or no?
We already approved the polling places.
Okay. All right. Well, then the ballot itself, I have a
It's the
question.
proclamation that we're approving.
Oh, the proclamation. Okay, then did you get the certified translator for the proclamation? That's for number 1. And number 2, as far as when will the, if after it's approved, the investigation or recommendation for investigation, I don't know what's on as far as your resolution goes. Once it's approved, how long will it take for it to get to from the board to the district attorney's office? Those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
For the second one, I could tell you, if anytime we've ever referred something, it goes, usually I send an email,
Immediately,
it goes
yeah.
immediately, like the next day.
The next day.
After our meeting, I would put the email together, share and send it, and I include all the other board members so that they see what I wrote. So that's how quickly that would be done for the first one. I know in the past, there's always been a certified translator for the not the proclamation, that only goes in the English, but are you talking about the ballot itself? The
No,
certified
not
translation?
just the ballot itself, but also with respect to any instructions. I know that Attorney Molino said in the past, as far as any instructions that maybe that comes out from the Department of State, like recently or even before the election, it's supposed to be posted at the polls, and also I don't know if Emily could speak on the mail ballots, if they get sent the same thing that's going to be posted at the polls, how long that would take. That's pretty much what I'm asking for.
Yeah, the mail ballots did have the Spanish translation, and on the back of the how to complete your mail ballot, it was on there. We had talked about that at a previous meeting, and Ms. Cook said she would make sure that was on there, and it was. And the ballots have the Spanish translation. In the past, they've always used one of the certified translators for that. I don't know if they're on, and if they are on, I'll ask them to.
I
raise
did
their
just
hand.
check and they're not
could-
on.
They could get back.
And
on
even
that.
chain of custody issues, like as far as if someone's going to, like, let's say, if they have a parent or relative in a nursing home or something like that, and they don't speak English, that, because I was asked that recently. So,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
thank you. If the officers could ask if there's anybody out in the atrium who would like to speak, and if there's anybody else in person while we're waiting to find out.
Madam Chair, while we're waiting, if I could address, I think what Mr. Rabo was referring to about instructions, he probably recalls, and I don't blame him. We have so many meetings talking about so many different issues. The Government Study Commission ballot question, where there were specific requirements about postings at each polling location. So I have a feeling that's maybe what he's thinking of. And as far as anyone needing assistance, they have any voter, including on election day at the polling place, has an absolute right to receive assistance from anyone with respect to a language. So, I'll just use, for example, if there's a Spanish speaking voter who requires assistance, it could be a family member, a friend, anyone else can assist that voter in reading or interpreting the ballot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Molino. Okay, would you like to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, folks. My name's Rick Holzman from West Wyoming, committeeman. I went to put my mail-in ballot in, and there was a lady in front of me with 2 ballots. The girl at the desk, I think was her first day there. She says, just go put it in the box. I said, yo, hold on a minute. She's got 2 ballots. There's 1 person. She jumps up, she chases her. She said, you can only put yours in. Need a proxy and a notary for the other one. I assume it was her husband's or something. Looked pretty innocent. But I just said to her, make sure that it's 1 vote for 1 person. That's the rule. Oh my God, she said. I said, that's your job today. I have a friend that his father got 3 Democratic votes, mail-ins. Somebody called him, get out the vote from the Democratic Party. I'm assuming. I haven't talked to him. He's 90 years old. I'm going to go see him. And they said, just fill them out and send them in. So I want to know there's a chain of custody when that box gets emptied and it's safe going up to where they're going to be counted. I recommend a Democrat, an independent, a Republican, and a sheriff. I did police work in the chain of command and custody of evidence. That's what a ballot is. That's all I have to say. Thanks for your work, though, folks.
I just wanted to share one thing. We have talked about this in some past meetings. That could have been mail ballot applications, and third parties across the state by law can send.
Right.
They have lists, and they can send mail ballot applications.
How do we police that, though, when those ballots get up to
can
be
see
counted?
Who it's from. They have to put who it's from on the mailer that comes. You
Mhm.
could ask, you could contact them and ask to unsubscribe if they're on some list for some organization, and lots of organizations may
Or
do
sending
this.
ballots out, yeah.
But
Well,
the
they're not
Election Bureau
selling
does.
ballots. They're not sending ballots, sir. And it's important to delineate what the difference between a ballot and a mail ballot application is.
These
And-
were ballots. These
Okay,
were-
there were
She could
ballots.
put the little dot
So
in them.
chances are that is from the 119, the 100, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
go
you. This is, chances are those ballots are from the 119th district, okay? Only one of those ballots is going to count for that person, all right? And And if anybody's confused at this point, they can certainly bring it down to the Bureau, or they can call the Bureau office and they will help figure out which one is the correct ballot, okay? Because
Yeah,
I know there is a little bit of confusion with that right now, and I apologize for that, but it is something that only one of those ballots, I can promise you, only one's going to count, okay?
yeah, I do have another concern. Dominion printed up Rinkavich's thing. We have all these printers in Luzerne County. Why can't we give that money to somebody local to print that stuff up? Is there a rule about that?
There is
Okay.
only certain approved
Printers. Okay.
printers,
All right.
okay? And
Mhm.
I apologize, we are in the public comment period that is only for agenda items, so you can come back up and talk about this at the end, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Anybody else in person, out in the atrium or in the room here?
Jamie Walsh, Ross Township. I'm asking, I don't have a comment. I'm asking about the agenda, possibly amending the agenda tonight to add something, but I need to ask a question before. The UOCAV ballots that are coming over from overseas, the military and non-citizen ballots that are coming over, do they get segregated right out of the gate?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could we just say, I really want to keep our meeting on order here. Is this agenda items? I'm sorry. I
This
just
is for
wanna make
agenda
sure
items.
We're
and
on the
we've al-
agenda, because if
we've
we
already
open up, we're going to
adopted
have
the agenda.
6.
Oh, no, I'm asking to
We've already
potentially,
adopted the agenda, and now we've moved on into the public comment on agenda
but I'm
items.
asking if Mr. Molino is on, I'm asking if we can amend the agenda. It's
We adopted the agenda.
It's de minimis in nature, so I want to make sure UOCAV ballots are segregated. That's all.
You could bring that up in the second public comment.
Okay, can
Yeah.
and if we can amend the agenda, then we can talk about it. So thank you.
Anybody else with a comment?
Agenda item comments.
Agenda item comments?
Yes.
I don't see any hands up, so we do have one hand up online. Ben Herring?
Good evening, Ben Herring, Duryea. Sorry I couldn't be there in person again tonight to see all your beautiful faces. We received through the right to know process an email that was sent from Beth Gilbert of NEPA's Action Together NEPA.
Oh,
And it
wait,
was-
I'm sorry. Is this- I'm sorry, what agenda item is this?
This is number 2. This is about the 4 ballots
The 4 mail ballots that were
from a
we're
nursing
going
home
to be-
that's going to be referred. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So an email was sent from Beth Gilbert to Emily Cook, who's doing a fantastic job, by the way. And we received this as part of a right to know request. And in that email, she specifically asked if there was ballots that were missing or undeliverable from the VA Medical Center in Wilkes-Barre, but also from other nursing homes. So what I'm asking you guys, and part of your discussion tonight on the agenda, is I'd be happy to send that email so you all have it as part of your, package, if you will. Because what I'd like to know is why a progressive left-wing nonprofit is inquiring over 2 of our most vulnerable locations, which is nursing homes and the VA Medical Center, which of course is veterans like myself. And because they do have a potentially vulnerable population with elderly people, why are they tracking ballots to those locations? I think it might have something to do with what Mr. Grantee, to his credit, has continued to ask for. And I'm glad you're finally considering sending that to the DA's office. But while he's investigating that, I wanted to put that on the record that a progressive nonprofit is inquiring over the same locations. And I think that's important to know. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up online. If there's anyone online on a phone line unable to figure out how to raise your hand, just jump in. Give you a second. These are for agenda items. I don't see anybody, no one's jumping in. So we're going to move on to the approval of the meeting minutes. We had both meeting minutes, the September 30th special meeting for the approval of the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot. which was page 2 on the agenda. We also have October 9th, 2024, regular meeting on the agenda. I didn't receive that. I know that Mr. Hahn is very busy right now, so we can just move that to the next meeting agenda and approve the September 30th tonight, discuss approving that. Is there a motion? Or is there any input? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do have input. I understand. I want to preface my comment with saying that I understand that there is a lot of work right now at the Bureau office, and I'm not in any way scrutinizing his job because so I just think that when we have comments from the public, I don't think that we should have a long drawn out, like I do, okay, of a dissertation of what people say. But I think we need a little bit more context in the public comment on our meeting minutes. And so maybe it's something that we can kind of I'm even thinking, and please forgive me if nobody else is in agreement with this, but I'm even thinking of pushing all minutes.
I just wanted to look on because
It's just very, very short. And I think that we need to do a better job. But I'm in that context. I'm thinking that we push all meeting minutes and approvals for all meeting minutes. And I could be wrong. Until after the election, just to give Mr. Hahn a break because of what he's going through at the election office. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to, because expecting certain work, and I think Romilda would agree with me, expecting certain type of work from Mr. Hahn as our clerk while he is trying to run an election is unreasonable. And I don't know if anybody else is in agreement with me, but so I would like to
I'd like to add, I disagree. Because I know we had a conversation about this, that we don't need to write word for word what is written in public comment. And I know county council just puts a very brief synopsis. If anybody sees what they spoke on in the minutes, they can always go to the recording and to listen to the full story if they really want to hear the full story, because it's there. It's also.
And I'm not saying
I just
that.
think that it's unnecessary. I think a synopsis to me is sufficient.
Synopsis, yes. Comments on backlog
Yeah.
is
that's a
very,
synopsis.
that's not a short, it's very short. I think it's a little too short. Just
Oh,
saying.
they
I'm
can
fine
always go
with-
to the recording.
I'm fine with voting on them, whatever minutes are finished right now, approving them. And then I'm also okay with having Mr. Hahn not do the minutes until after the election. So.
But I agree with both of those, because there isn't going to be another meeting until after the election anyways.
Yeah.
And so, but I just don't think he needs to do any more than he's already doing. I think the minutes are really good.
I agree. I do agree with that. I know, I agree with what you said about the minutes, and I feel bad for Mr. Hahn, and it's a tough situation, but I'd rather him spending his time in the election office, even after the election. There's a lot to do.
Agreed.
So I don't want him spending more time.
So is there a motion to, for the minutes?
So
Well, it's only the one. It's for the September 30th.
Right.
So Mr. Morelli made the motion to approve
yes,
the September 30th minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Schlosser. All in favor, say aye.
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 No,
And one no, Ms. Fusaro. Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes 4-1 to approve the September 30th, 2024 special meeting minutes. The October 9th will be tabled till after the election, the next regular meeting. Agenda items. Number one, the proclamation for November 5th, 2024 general election. It was added to the agenda pages 3 through 14. And it's on the agenda for approval by board. It's the giant legal notice that has to go into paper one time for our size of county at a certain time within a certain time frame before the election. So the Election Bureau sent this for our approval. The only thing I noted about it is that is it here? Looks like it's been adjusted. Let's see here. Oh, no, the very top part, it's on the bottom of the second page, actually. It says 2024 general primary election, which it should just say general election, but I think that they could probably
Emily,
adjust that before it goes out.
Emily already made
Okay.
that correction. She
And then the
texted
only-
me to advise the board.
Okay, so the correction, and the only other little one that probably doesn't really, isn't a significant thing. The US for the 9th was the lowercase us instead of the upper, but I think everybody would get the gist of that. And I'm okay with approving it, even if it had the little less there. I don't think I had any. The only other question I had is that on the back, there's also the legal, at the very end, there's also the legal notices for pre-canvassing, canvassing, and our adjudication meeting, which starts the Friday after Election Day, which they have to go in as legal notices. So they're going to be at the end of the proclamation, just so you're all aware. But it has the rooms for all of them, but it didn't have the room for canvassing. And the reason I bring this up is this. I know in the past for canvassing, the room for viewers or watchers for canvassing has been the waiting area for the Election Bureau, because it was all glass, so they could see and watch the ballot bags come back and the people in the room canvassing. That's the canvassing. I'm just thinking about for the watchers, how that process will be for watchers. It doesn't say what room it would be. It says pre-canvassing where it is in that upstairs 3rd floor room with the courtroom, and same with the adjudication meeting. That was my only question, is just a heads up, just to think about that with the new construction, what that process would be. But I don't know. Would they just look in the window? Could be a room where like a camera they could watch? Okay. Live stream some into a room. Okay, that works. Okay.
I have a question, Romelda. What is the, because we've spoken about this in the past, and it is a real problem for me, and I keep having a challenge with it, and I'm hoping that it's not that difficult. What is the challenge? Is there a challenge? And how much of a challenge would it be to translate this into Spanish as well and put a Spanish proclamation out for the growing number of Hispanics in Hispanic people in Hazelton area and that surrounding area? Would it be a grandiose issue to translate this into Spanish as well and put a Spanish version out?
I don't know, but I will find out and I'll do whatever I can to make that happen.
So if I were, say, to make a motion to translate this into Spanish, it wouldn't be a horrible issue.
I don't know because I can't, I don't have the capability of translating, but I can
We've
find
had
out.
this issue with several different elections in past.
Mhm.
Okay, where we have said, oh, we'll do it next election. We'll do it next election. And every time this is on the edge, the proclamation is on the agenda, we keep saying we're going to do it next election. And I'd like to make this,
Do we have to have an official translator? Like the courts have official
it's
translators?
a proclamation, so it would have to be an official translator.
Okay, I have to
would
find out
assume.
who we can get to officially translate that.
Okay, I would
But I
like,
will do that.
okay, I would like to make the motion.
Before we go into, I just want to add, I know that this has come up before, and it came up as close as, I think, the last 1 or 2 elections, and we were advised that it's a lot. And it just goes in English because we're not a required Spanish translation county right at this time. I realize that. Although we do the ballot, we do it for mail ballots. We did do it for the ballot question. We don't do it for legal notices though, that are ever put in.
Attorney
the
Molino, is this a big issue and a big legal issue to have this translated, this proclamation translated into Spanish? Would that be a problem or a legal issue to have that done? As long as we got the official translator.
It's not a problem, and it's not a legal issue. It's more of a time issue and cost. That this is a rather lengthy ad, a rather lengthy legal notice. So you're doubling the size if you're including a Spanish translation. That's not my call. I mean, I offer no opinion on that at all. But the chair is correct. It is not a requirement for Luzerne County. So it's.
I know, but we keep pushing it off and saying, oh, next election, next election, next election. And honestly, I think that, it needs to be handled and it should be handled and it should be done. And I just, our county manager seems to believe that it is a reasonable thing to do as well.
If we put the Spanish translation in for this legal notice also for pre-canvassing, canvassing, and a special meeting for adjudication, I mean, we're setting a precedent then too. We're going to have to probably put all of the legal notices going forward in Spanish, and none of them are ever in Spanish. They go in the citizen's voice. This would be a first time those were ever translated in Spanish. But it would be, well, you did it this time. Why aren't you doing that going forward, doing these, because those legal notices are at the end of the proclamation. So again, I'm just saying, I agree that I think that asking for this whole thing to be now translated by a certified translator, when I think this has to go out, I think it's no earlier than 10 days before the election, or 3 days sooner than, or 3 days or 4 days before. I don't know the exact, but there is a specific time frame, and that's not far away. I mean, even 10 days before the election, I think it's shortly after this meeting to get a certified translator to do all this. I don't know that that would be possible, but that's just my 2 cents on that.
Okay, well, let's see if it even, this is, I think that we've been hemming and hawing over this for a long time. And I think, getting it done and putting it in one paper in Hazelton, the Spanish paper that we had discussed, I think that is not unreasonable for the Spanish community, the Spanish speaking community, for the Hispanic community. And I don't think that's unreasonable. And so I'd like to make a motion to have the proclamation translated into Spanish and printed in one newspaper in Hazelton area.
Is there a second? Fails due to no second. Okay, is there a motion? Is there any more discussion on the proclamation before a motion to approve it? Okay, Mr. Morelli makes a motion to approve it. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Schlosser. And we'll do a roll call vote on the proclamation. Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Schlosser?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro?
Yes.
Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes to approve the proclamation for the November 5th, 2024 general election. The next item is number 2, the motion to refer 4 mail ballots from the April general primary election witnessed by same witness to the DA's office. Ms. Fusaro asked to have this put on the agenda, and it's on the agenda for information, discussion, and board vote.
Well, we had We had 4 mail-in ballots come in during and they were Dropbox ballots, okay? Because they didn't have postage on them. Had determined that. We had also determined that they all had the same signature on them. And I think there were several of us that said that it seemed like there was red flags there. And that was during the adjudication. I would like to, we did request to view those ballots again, but given the amount of work that the Bureau is doing right now, I don't think that was very easy for them to pull those and get that to us in a timely manner. So, I would like to hear what everybody else has to say, but I would like to refer this to the DA's office and have him investigate a little bit have an investigator look into it further.
Yeah, we heard about this a lot. Gentleman came to us. It's on the agenda. I'll make a motion, move it forward. Let's put in the DA's hands and then let them handle it. Best way of doing it.
Before we go there, I just wanted to add a couple things before we go to your motion. Mr. Attorney Molino, is there a limit to the number of mail ballot envelopes that a person can witness?
I don't think anymore. That recently changed, I believe, even with that designated agent form, but
that's not about a
that
witness, though.
wasn't.
Yeah, that's for a witness.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't have that in front of me, and I know even with that other form, that wasn't the state of the law back in the primary anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, the declaration is for assisting someone with their mail ballot, bringing it, picking it
Right.
up, filling it out, but witnessing the back of the mail ballot envelope. Yeah, I don't know that that's part of the declaration.
Denise,
But
do you
and
need
if there was
the
a limit,
form?
yeah,
That's
I've
the-
read it.
you read
Yeah,
it, you
that's
have
why
it,
I was
okay.
asking him,
Okay.
for information on that. The reason these mail ballots were rejected were no signature or mark of the voter during adjudication. After Mr. Grantee's very first time that he talked about this in public comment back in the spring, shortly after the election, I contacted Attorney Molino, and I did share with him. I said, the Bureau did call the witness and talk to the witness. We requested that as a board. But we didn't call the voters. So could we call the voters? And at that time, his suggestion was, you rejected them for no signature, no mark. So that's where it's at. They weren't processed anyways. So I didn't press it. But when this came up, Ms. Fasaro was requesting it to go onto the ballot. Go onto the agenda. I requested that again, that let's call the voters. That could clear things up. Because sometimes when we send things to the DA's office, it takes a long time to get results. And sometimes we have never received an answer to our referral and nothing back on more than one. So my thought was maybe we could just clear this up by just calling the voters, saying, this is what happened. Your mail ballots were rejected, no signature, no mark, had a witness, and let them know. And also use it as an informational. If they say, yeah, I asked her to witness, why? The witness had put their information, they weren't hiding anything, where they called the witness, and the witness shared with the Bureau why they filled it out for them, witnessed it for them. So with the length of the time it takes for the DA, not that I'm not saying that it's not something that maybe should be referred, but my thought was with the request, if that clears it up, there would not be a reason to refer it. But it could also mean we definitely need to refer it. But with that request, I was advised that the Bureau is too busy right now. Now, there is another option. It is just to wait and till we can get those mail ballots and the voters' names and numbers and make those calls. And then if something seems off, then refer it, make the motion to refer it. So, I mean, it could be tabled and we could do it at our next meeting. Because my concern is mainly, we don't often hear back. We have had situations where we haven't heard back. So this could clear it up and might mean the DA's office doesn't have to do any work because we found out the answer to the questions. So that's all I'm getting at there. So.
I'm gonna come by before because somebody got to buy a car and whether all the country.
I don't know who that is,
That's,
but I think that's somebody on that.
yeah, it's somebody on Zoom.
Yeah. So any
I-
other board members want to share? I know we've, the three of us have spoken. Do it. Either of you two have anything to?
I would tend to want to look and see what we could find out ourselves rather than go to the district attorney. They seem to take quite a while for them to look at it, and it may go down.
Can we mute everybody?
You, if we could. Okay.
And then sometimes they may put it on the bottom of the pile and never decide to get to it because they don't deem it to be of much importance. Since the votes weren't counted, didn't do anything, but actually I think there'd be an issue that needs to be looked at. But I don't think, maybe it shouldn't be looked at by the district attorney. I think maybe it should be looked at by us, maybe. When we get it, we can get the ballots.
Mr. Schlosser?
I don't know if you could, you want to send it to the DA's office? As long as he has the manpower to investigate it.
But aren't we in the same situation? I mean, just like
Yeah.
our bureau's busy, okay? It could get put on the bottom of the pile there as well, with all due respect, with everything going on. We've been talking about it, and I'm not downplaying it, not to say it's not important. I say send it to DA. Let's see what the DA thinks. It'll set precedent as we move forward, how we want to address other things. We've been talking about it. It's been coming up every meeting. Let's push it off. Show that we're taking it seriously. Let the DA come back to us. If the DA says this isn't mine, go back and do it yourself. That's fine.
I agree
move forward.
because I think
It's
we're
not.
just wasting time. And I think also, I think honestly, it won't take, he'll make the phone calls. Like, I understand,
And if the DA says like, this isn't
yeah, if he
that important,
kicks
then
it back
then
to
in the
us.
future, when people come and say, go to the DA, like, it'll set precedent. So.
And he may
move
kick it
forward.
back to us and say, listen, we don't have time for it. And then at that point, we can
Doesn't have to
do
handle it.
something else, and figure it out. But I second Mr. Morelli's motion.
Okay, so Mr. Morelli made the motion to refer to the DA.
Yeah.
And Ms. Pissarro seconded it. And we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Schlosser?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
Ms. Pissarro?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Ms. Williams, yes. The motion will be referred, it will be, the 4 mail ballots will be referred to the district attorney's office. We'll now move into comment on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the
Could I
public.
just add, before we get into, I just have a couple questions in general. So before we get to the comments, how are we doing in the office? I mean, can we just have an update where we're at? I know there's some questions. I get questions. Can we have an update before we go back to the public?
Sure, we're doing well. As everyone knows, the last day for registration was Monday. So it was Monday at midnight, and we are processing all the registrations. We have 2,500 in the queue.
How much?
2,500.
Okay.
And we have multiple staff working on that, so that will be done shortly. Our mail-in ballots, we sent out 51,000 and received 17,000 back. 51 and 3 zeros.
51,000
Yeah, 51 and 3 zeros.
and 17 back.
17 back.
How many mail-in ballot applications are in the queue?
That is one number that Emily could not get me today, but as soon as I can get that, I will pass that on.
Yeah, and again, you feel comfortable with the staff and you're adding
I do.
on from everyone?
I
Okay,
do.
okay.
I mean, people have to understand a few things. There's only a certain amount of people who have sure access, and those are computers that are hardwired into the state system. And also that there are other things going on at the same time at the Bureau. So we have them working into the evening, and they're here on Saturdays and Sundays. The other thing that people need to know is that Pennsylvania has, when you renew your driver's license, you're automatically registered. You have to opt out. So even if you are registered and you don't opt out, we get that registration. So many of these registration applications are duplicate. The other thing that I want people to know is on Monday, Beth McBride dropped off and dumped a numerous amount of applications. Most of them were dated in June. And they were delivered to the Bureau of Election on the last day of registration. And one of those forms belonged in Monroe County. So there's all these things going on. And I'm very proud of the work that the Bureau is doing. And I'm very proud and thankful of all the people who are assisting from the other departments. But we will have those registrations completed.
And I just want to say
Shortly.
thank you. I get a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of rumors. I get calls from people from all different areas. I heard this. I don't know where their sources are coming from, but if there's any concern, I'll make a call. How are we doing? If I feel there's a panic, and that's why I asked the question, and you know, there's only so much we could do, but you know, if we have an issue, if you need more help, let's do what we can. But as long as you're comfortable, I believe it. And again, I thank you and I thank our Bureau. I think they're doing a heck of a job. So I appreciate that update.
I also do want to mention, I was there today. I helped out. Sat down and I think on my list that I had in front of me, there were almost 150 people processed that had mail-in ballots come in today, that came in for and voted today with the mail-in ballot on demand. So that was a lot. And I know I processed quite a few while I was sitting there. I helped. I do want to also, one more time say that I'm sure Denise or any one of the other fellow board members that are Democrats and myself would be happy to sit and process registrations as a bipartisan team on the at the Bureau as well. And we are willing to do that. We are willing to help. We were already sworn in. We have taken the oath. We are honest, and we would do that properly. And not to mention everything's trackable on that system anyway. So I'm sure that any other board member would be happy to help if capable and if able to. So I wanted to extend that as well. And thank you for the update.
Anything else, Mr. Morelli? I think you said a couple things.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to comment on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters not listed on the agenda, but which must be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Again, it's limited to 3 minutes, one comment time per
Denise,
person.
I am so sorry. Apparently people on the Zoom cannot hear us.
Oh.
People are getting texts. Oh, they can't get in or they can't hear. They can't get in on Zoom. Maybe there's too many people. I don't know.
We can hear
There
just
are a lot
fine.
of people.
We can hear you just
us
fine. Yep, just fine. Yep.
Okay, they may have a wrong link, honey. I don't know. Okay.
So again, limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person. All right, we'll start again with in-person. Right ahead.
Madam Chair, it's Gene. Just before we get to this first public commenter,
Okay,
just without, I didn't want to leave your question hanging. I know you voted unanimously to refer that matter to the DA, but you asked about the witness signature. I looked at the statute. I couldn't find anything prohibiting more than 1 signature. So I just wanted to tell you that. It says an elector who is unable to sign the declaration because of illness or physical disability shall be excused from signing upon making a declaration which shall be witnessed by 1 adult person. And then it goes on from there what the declaration says. So there's nothing that I read prohibiting a witness from witnessing multiple electors' ballots.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Scott Pressler, Jenkins Township, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. In 2020, ballots were thrown into dumpsters in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. In 2022, polling locations ran out of paper, disenfranchising voters. And in fact, a settlement was just done with Luzerne County paying out to voters that were, in fact, disenfranchised. Now, here we are in 2024, and we have a backlog still that we have confirmed of thousands of unprocessed voter registrations. And we have also heard that we do not have the number of mail-in ballot requests. I want to be clear, this is not a left or a right issue. There are people who expect and demand their mail-in ballots to be sent to them. If these mail-in ballots are waiting until the 29th, which will be sent out perhaps into November, these voters may not have their mail-in ballots returned in time by 8 p.m. on November 5th. That is dangerous to our constitutional republic, and it is disenfranchising the voters that this board represents. On top of that, we have a candidate, a Republican candidate, whose name was misspelled this year on over 6,000 ballots. Those ballots were canceled by some voters that have already voted. They were sent another ballot. Do these voters all know that their voices have been canceled? Do they know that they have to turn in a secondary ballot? And why are some of these voters receiving more than 1 ballot? I don't want to have to do this, but here today, I stand before you with a complaint in my hands. I intend to file a lawsuit against Luzerne County, the Luzerne County Bureau of Elections, and the Luzerne County Board of Elections, all 3 entities. The 14th Amendment right is guaranteed for all. And in Luzerne County, our people are being disenfranchised. They have the right to vote. They have the right to vote whether in person on election day or in person on demand mail-in ballots at the Luzerne County Board of Election office or by mail. Voters have been disenfranchised in this county repeatedly, year after year after year. And still, we're not hiring more staff in this county. And we're hearing from this board the offer of having more help. And I welcome our manager here in Luzerne County. I hope that you guys are going to take up that offer. 22,000 unregistered, more than 5,000 unregistered MIB. I care about the people of Luzerne. I care about the people of Pennsylvania. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in person?
Good evening. My name is Charles Kennebeck, and I have some questions. Thousands of voter registrations were filed before the deadline in this county. They're still not processed. Are those voters going to be added to the voting rolls? And if so, when? Will they be added to the voting rolls?
If they have an application that was processed or that is not processed, I'm sorry, if they have an application that was submitted prior, yes, on prior to midnight on
21.
Monday, yes, then yes, those ballots or those applications will be processed.
When will they be processed?
That is a question for the manager, for the Bureau, but the Bureau's not here, so I will let.
Well, if it's just a hollow promise that they'll be processed and they're promised, added to the voting roll on November 6th, that doesn't add much to it. So we need a deadline. We need a time that this is going to be done.
They will be processed before I know that they will be processed before Election Day.
Okay, but Election Day is November 5th. It'd be nice to have people added to the voting roll so they know before November 5th. So what is a day that this board can give them to tell people that turned them in by October 21 that they'll be on the voting roll?
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that question.
Okay. Mail-in ballots must be received by the board by November 5th at 8 p.m. What is being done to ensure that ballots are mailed out by this board timely so that those ballots can be returned by November 5th at 8 p.m.? What's being done? Is anything being done?
Well, I will say that we have the Bureau has worked tirelessly to continue on, not only to provide ballot on demand for the residents and of Luzerne County and the voters of Luzerne County, but also they have worked in every time there is a mail-in ballot application that comes in, that's all you have to understand that there is a difference between the board and the Bureau. And though I understand this is where you voice your concerns with the Bureau, but ultimately we have a certain amount of control and then we don't have those answers all the time.
So this board sitting here tonight, charged with voting in Luzerne County, has no idea what's being done to ensure that a voter will get a ballot in time so he can bring it back in time to have his vote counted. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, what is the time then? What is being
I don't
done
work
to
in the
ensure?
office. I don't work in the office. I'm on the board.
All right. Can anybody say what is being done to ensure that mail-in ballots are sent out to voters to give them enough time to get them back here so they're received by November 5th at 8 p.m.? Can anybody answer that? Okay, my last question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a
Time's up.
gentleman here this
Your 3
evening
minutes is up.
who said that
Sir,
a colleague
Sir,
had received.
how about, I'll give you 10 extra seconds to really,
Okay.
your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
But go ahead, really quickly.
Okay. The
Sum it up.
gentleman stood here tonight and said one person received 3 ballots. The board inquired, it was 3 ballots. What is the board going to do tomorrow about that? And what will be done in the future so that one voter gets 1 ballot in the future?
I will respond to that because I did speak with the election director about that. And I asked her I saw an article in the paper that said 3 people received 3 ballots. And she said that was not the case, that those people came in with 2 ballots. It was their canceled and their new one that they were received, that no one received a duplicate 3rd ballot. And so she told me that, and I thanked her, and she said there is no awareness of hers of any of that.
Okay,
So I don't know what that newspaper article, where that came from, but I read it and
Okay.
I inquired
I
about
wasn't
it.
referring to the news article. I was referring to a life person here, flesh and blood, who said he saw it himself, not a news article. You heard it tonight. What is going to be done to investigate that and to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
I believe we talked to him about, they were probably mail ballot applications. Yeah.
No, he actually stood here tonight and said they were ballots because you could actually check off the candidate's name. So what is going to be done about that and to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
If anybody were to receive something like that, they should bring that forward to the election bureau, to the DA's office, and definitely right to the bureau if
Okay.
they receive 3
But
ballots.
is this board or any board going to do something to ensure that one person gets 1 ballot in the future?
First of all, I would suggest that I'd like to see the 3
Yeah,
ballots.
me too.
Okay,
I
Now
don't
we're
want to
making
go.
progress.
right-
Is somebody going to investigate that to ensure,
He wants
one,
to
if it
bring
were
them
wrong,
forward to
it's
the Election
corrected,
Bureau.
and two,
or
that
here.
it doesn't happen
He
again.
didn't bring him here tonight. He
If
didn't
he
bring him
wants
to
to
show
bring
it
him
to
in
us.
here, because I really don't want to work on hearsay evidence,
Yes,
and
yes.
no court would.
Okay,
Thank
before I
you.
spoke
No,
tonight,
your time
Your
is
time
up.
is up.
you
I
going-
gave you like 45 seconds to 60, and I said
Okay.
I'd give you 10,
Thank
but
you.
thank you very much. Okay, anybody else in person?
Yeah, TJ Fitzgerald, Newport Township. I have a question for Emily, but Emily's not here. I'd like to ask then the department head, I don't know your name, I apologize. But thank you, sir. Did any of you, and Ramil, did any of you ask for, y'all agree that this election is probably the most important, there's going to be more turnout for this election than any other election? So based on that fact, did anybody go to council and ask for more employees? Ramilda? No. No, it's not. How is it done?
Yeah.
No answer. Okay. Well, I did some research, and from what I found out in 2022, there were 8 employees and 4 temps that were working during the election in 2022. In 2023, 8 employees, 2 temps. 2024, 8 employees, 3, and there's a budget for 9. So I think we're losing 1. If I was involved and if I was trying to make sure that we had every valid counting and we had things, now the staff is overburdened, they're doing a great job and they're trying really hard. I mean, it really does stink. Okay. But I think if we planned ahead and really did this and asked the council for more or budgeted more or somehow fixed that we had more people working, all hands on deck, we wouldn't be here. I think that this thing is really horrible. Also with the Jamie Walsh Cabell, and people are going to say we couldn't get the ballots out fast enough or whatever. I'd like to see problems up ahead. I think what we could have done was printed his ballots, Cabell, and whoever won, just shoot them out the next day, burn the ones that lost. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do so we don't have these issues that we're not doing. We need to, so I really do believe that most of the problems that we have in this county is leadership and management and how it's managed or mismanaged. And I think that we need to start realizing that you guys, not the board, but the Bureau and everybody works for the people. And when the people are disenfranchised and they're hurt, they're going to have this. When we're not, we don't show up. We're only showing up because we're getting damaged. And it's not a good feeling. And I think that I don't want to be here. I keep on saying that. I want to have a good election, but honestly, we were not prepared for this. We did not budget for it. We did not communicate. Obviously, nobody asked for more employees. And that's what we need to look into. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Before anybody else comes up, I'd like to make a statement. I would like to say I'm sorry to the public. And the reason I'm sorry is because we as a board have failed you. We are the link between you and the Bureau. And we are the ones that we're the only people you can voice your concerns to. We're the only ones that you can talk to about what's going on between there and here, other than council. And they've got a whole lot of other stuff going on. And I feel your pain because I think that the link is broken. And I think that we need to do a better job as your board to repair that link, to repair relationships within the county. And that way we can provide the correct answers for you as a people. So I do want to say that. I hope I do apologize that that link is broken. And I'm going to work to repair that link between all of us and have that have it so that you can come to us and we can talk to get the correct answers and get the right answers for you, because honestly, I don't have those answers all the time. And I feel like I wish I did, and I wish I could provide those answers, but I can't. And so I do want to say I'm sorry, and I will work better and harder at fixing that. Okay.
I also
Thank
want to
you.
add that we have to understand that part of this process here in Luzerne County is linked to the state of Pennsylvania. And if we're going to say we failed, I think they failed. So Matt, no pressure, but there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in PA. And the process here slows down because of what goes to PA. And the state reps who've been here many, many years, and they go there and they promise this stuff, nothing goes on. So let's understand the process and what goes on, because it just doesn't start here and it doesn't finish here. So, if we're going to point fingers, then let's point fingers. There's a lot of fingers to be pointed here, and I'll be glad to point fingers. But let's just remember there's a process here. It goes to the state, and maybe last time I checked, I don't think state reps have any public meetings. So you could go and vote. I don't know if you did, but if they do, they should. Maybe they should do a home rule and change the process of the state too. Maybe we look at that. Point of it is that there's a process here. When you bring things in, it has to go through the state. Let's just make sure we understand the process. It's easy to come in here and say, this isn't working. They're not doing it. We should do this. We could hire a lot more people. Taxes could go up too in the county. I'm sure this room will be filled with that. Understand the services. So I'll just understand that there's a link to this process and there's accountability, and it's just not in one place here. And that's all I want to say. So make sure we're fair to the whole area.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Alyssa, for saying that. And that goes a long way. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And as far as I agree, there's a process. There's a process in every workplace. And again, if I don't know, no matter where you go in life, if there's something happens, and I was in the real estate business. Real quick.
Mr. Grantede was waiting.
I
for his
apologize,
turn.
real quick, but
we don't do two public comments
real
each,
real
because
quick.
then everybody's going to want to. Thank you very much.
Just
Mr.
so you know, I'm in the
Grantede?
real estate market, and if their interest rates dropped 3%, I would hire staff.
Thank you.
That's all
Thank
I'm
you.
saying. So if we have the biggest election in history, we should have hired staff.
Thank you. Okay.
Joe Grantede, Plains Township. Am I correct in what I heard before, that Beth Gilbert delivered a number of ballots on the last day? I'm asking a
Yes, I
question.
believe that's what the county manager said.
The county
Anything
manager
else?
said that? Was it a large number?
I don't know.
We don't know.
In priority, where do they go? If we have thousands of them already sitting there, or do they go to the back of the room? Do they go to the front of the room? Do we throw them up in the air? And we don't know. We don't know a lot of stuff here. It's really sad. It's really embarrassing. The number of people who use drop boxes should never be cited again for accuracy. We were all forced, if we went over and did a in-person on-demand ballot, we were forced to put it in a drop box, whether we agree with it or not. There should never be another number cited that people like the drop boxes because of the number. I heard that there were people waiting two hours plus to do their ballots today. Is that correct?
Today?
Not today. Today,
That's a-
when I got there, it was about an hour.
Is that reasonable?
But then you have to understand, it wasn't just, it wasn't that, okay? Because you'd wait like a half hour, 40 minutes, and then we would call 10 to 12 people to go upstairs. So
Right.
it's not what you think.
I mean, the people are waiting over an hour on certain days to do the on-demand ballots. Is that reasonable? Are people walking out and saying, I'm not waiting?
You have to understand what the process is and how difficult
I
that
understand.
process
I was
is.
there. I did mine.
Right.
So I know,
And I honest to God, I applaud I'm,
I'm
and
not saying
Joe, I
anything-
know
I'm
you,
not
but
saying
I'm
anything
just
about the
saying,
effort.
I viewed what they have done and I have watched and they worked, they did the best they can
I understand.
when
I'm not-
getting
I'm not critici-
bombarded
I'm
with
not
a bunch of people
criticizing
coming
the
in the
effort.
door.
I'm not criticizing the effort. I'm criticizing the fact that people are waiting over an hour to vote. Is that reasonable? That's all I'm asking. It's not.
Yes, it
it's
is
not
when
reasonable.
yes, it is.
Not
And I'm sorry, this is where I'm
Come on.
going to disagree with you.
I sat at enough of these meetings that we want to have every voter not be disenfranchised because they have to go out of their way to do something. We want to actually bring the boxes to their house to get them to vote. And now we have people standing in line for hours.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Gina Neria, West Wyoming. I was actually at the Bureau today trying to determine what happened with my mail-in ballot that I did drop into the Dropbox dismayedly because it still hasn't shown up as being processed. And I went upstairs at your recommendation and they couldn't give me an answer. I showed them the website, the PA Voter Services. No one knew what that was. 3 people said, I don't know what that app is. So how are we supposed to have faith in the process? Personally, this is my first meeting. I don't understand the process. I asked you again, I took those 3 ballot applications to have my brother and mom come back. After they fill that out and you call them upstairs, what's the process from there? Does it take 2 hours? There were people in that room upstairs where I'd gone that were complaining that they were there for almost 2 hours and they weren't getting their ballots. And then someone would come up with the envelope for 2 people, neither of the persons in the room. And I wasn't a part of that. I was just observing it. So I was just wondering, like, what is the process? Like one person processing one application? And what is like the time frame to get that ballot to the person?
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and I appreciate, and I can actually attest to this because we met today.
Yep.
And so, what you do is you come in and you put your name on that list, okay, which is a waiting list, okay, and then we give you the application. You sit down, you fill that application out so that it streamlines the process. When you go upstairs, it kind of just like,
That's
okay,
the process I'm inquiring about. Like,
yeah.
what
So once
happens
you go
magically?
upstairs, once you get called to go upstairs, then they take your application for the mail-in ballot. And if you have an old one, they have to go into the SHIR system. They have to cancel your old one. Then they have to reissue you a new one. They have to print that ballot out, which is not easy. It is a ballot on demand machine that only processes one ballot at a time. Okay. And it is not easy. They have to make sure it is for your local area, for your precinct. Okay. And then they have to package that, put your name on the actual ballot envelope. Okay. This is not nothing short of a miracle that they're getting 150 done
one at a time.
Yeah. And
Okay,
it,
so there's
and
not 2 machines.
no, and
or-
it's not that easy.
Just curious. I just didn't understand the process.
I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad that I could answer
Thank
for
you.
you.
I
I
appreciate
just,
that.
I do want everybody to understand that the not only is the office working overtime on the registrations to make sure they're done in enough time to receive a mail-in ballot if they requested one, it is also mail-in ballot applications that are being processed. It is also ballot on demands that are being processed. It is also any other type of issue that the voter comes up with that they are processing. So they are processing all of these things and it's a lot of work, and they're handling it with grace.
So I know my time is over, but I'll make the
Yes.
last statement quick. We really think 8 employees is enough to do all of that for a county of this size?
No, I don't. And and unfortunately, I'm not the one that does the hiring, and I'm not the one that can help with that. So,
Appreciate your time.
all right. Thank you.
Yes, hand up. Go ahead. Yes.
Indulge me for a minute. I hate when people hand me. Not me for short people.
Go ahead.
Maria Elena Rotella. I'm one of the people listing in the 50 American State Constitution and the National Constitution circa 1787, in whom all political power is inherent, Republican in form, sui juris, come in peace to redress my grievances through remonstrance. So I've been hearing everybody talk about basically what amounts to what you guys are doing is you're operating in maladministration, which is bad administration. That means that you are not following the rules. You're inefficient. With the expected level of competence, you're resulting in delays, mismanagement, neglect of important matters. I mean, you guys made these rules, right? You kind of imposed them on everybody, even though the Constitution doesn't say anything about no excuse mail-in ballots. I mean, I know the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned the proper decision from the Commonwealth Court because,
I'm sorry.
when
could
you guys take an oath of office, you are supposed to stand up for the Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. Our state constitution is the supreme law of our state. And when you operate outside of the mandates of the Constitution, you are violating your oath of office, which actually constitutes felony perjury. So I will just read you what constitutional
Can I
says.
ask what's your role again? I'm sorry.
What?
What's your role again?
I'm one of the people.
One of the people?
Yeah, as in we the people. So we have equal rights in all states. I'm pretty sure I have equal rights everywhere, so I can be anywhere.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Yes. So constitutional means consistent with the Constitution, not conflicting with any provision of the Constitution or the fundamental law of the state. That's from Black's Law, 4th edition. So Act 77 in whole is truly unconstitutional. Like I said, the Commonwealth Court actually had that correct. So all government servants, whether elected or appointed, are agents and trustees of the people and are bound to the Constitution. The oath compels officials to prioritize constitutional protections by refusing to enforce laws that are unconstitutional, such as Act 77, which you've already done, but the policies you put in place seem to be making you still operate in maladministration. You're not getting it done. It's a neglect of duties, failure to carry out responsibilities properly, whether through carelessness, negligence, or ignorance of the law. So I would like to read some of the fundamental principles of law, which are the maxims of law. They're universally accepted. I know your solicitor doesn't seem to be here, but the derivative power cannot be greater than the original from which it is derived. So you guys are allowed to be here and exist because of these people. They are in charge. All political power is inherent in the people. It's in all 50 state constitutions. I've read them all. So they all say the same thing. And it also says maximum 11W. In the presence of the superior power, which is these people, the inferior power ceases. So again, fundamental principles of law. So you guys are violating your oath of office, in my opinion, and you're also committing maladministration, which means that you don't have any more immunity. Every one of these people can file a claim against you for trespass against their unalienable right, especially under Article 1, Section 5 for elections. So I just want to remind you that Article 1, Section 25 actually says that, to guard against the transgressions of the high powers in which we have delegated, everything in Article 1 is accepted out of your general powers and
Thank
shall forever remain
Thank you.
inviolate.
Your time is up. Thank you. Anybody else in person? Any other hands? Okay. Anybody? Whoever.
Tom Potsko, Hanover Township.
Hi,
My
Mr.
wife and
Potsko.
I, hello. My wife and I went to vote on the on-demand mail ballot today. It took us 45 minutes waiting downstairs, another 45 minutes upstairs. We were also the two people that the young lady was talking about. My wife had a question about the Sure system being down, how long it was down. The man asked our names and he brought in our prepared ballots while 3 people were sitting there. I'm sure that wasn't intended on his part, but that's how it went down. I heard it mentioned 150 people were processed today.
Yes, sir.
And how many days are left for the mail ballots to be processed there?
Well, for the ballot on
On
demand.
demand. Yeah.
29th, right? Yeah, the 29th.
So at 150 a day, only 900 people are going to be processed for those. What about all the people that aren't going to be processed and have mail-in need on-demand ballot?
Well, there were breaks in the day. Okay, it was steady for the most part, but there were breaks in the day. Okay, where we did have a little bit of a lull. So it's not like packed that whole time either. So, but I understand where you're coming from. I will tell you from my perspective, okay, because I was there until those doors closed. There were 2 people that came in probably around 4 o'clock that we said, hey, listen, it's a little late, come back tomorrow. Those are the only people that got turned down today because they came in right when the office was just about, to close. Otherwise, we really got everybody in that came in today. So I do want to say that it's not that. I mean, and like I said, I don't work for the Bureau, right? I was there to help today. So I was just working the downstairs and taking people's names and stuff like that and explaining what they needed to fill out. But we don't work for the Bureau,
Right. I know.
but as far as I know, nobody other than those 2 people that came in right at close, nobody has been turned away to process yet.
I understand it's a long, detailed thing for each and every voter. And I was told at least 15 minutes for each voter.
Right.
That takes a lot of time, especially new things that come up. But
if it was quick, would you trust it?
Yes.
Probably not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Go ahead.
Good evening, Matthew Contreras, taxpayer. This is my 3rd time here at the election board, and part of the frustration, I think, for the community in Luzerne is, this is an observation, is the accountability. And I know in my 3 meetings here, my frustration has been accountability. So, Ms. Fasaro, thank you so much for taking some accountability and promising to do better, because I think that's part of the frustration that the people have. So thank you for actually doing that. It's a shame that the chairwoman of this board has not taken responsibility and accountability for some of the actions here in this county. It's criminal, frankly. And the other thing is, Mr. Morelli is correct that this is not a problem, a making of the board. This is not a problem this board made. This is a creation of Governor Wolf and Governor Shapiro. And unfortunately, our legislature has chosen to ignore this issue. Much like our immigration system, the election system here in Pennsylvania is broken. This is not the way this should be functioning. It's an embarrassment to our Commonwealth. It's an embarrassment to the rest of the country. And it's something that the legislature needs to change. It needed to change before 2020. And frankly, after COVID, it needed to change again. And it still hasn't changed. And yes, Mr. Morelli is correct. The legislature and the governor is the one who needs to take care of that. However, there are 67 counties in this Commonwealth. And unfortunately, Mr. Morelli also says that he doesn't want people like me from the outside coming and talking to you all about what's going on here. But part of the frustration is that you guys don't have your poop together, okay? And the other 66 counties don't seem to have the issues that Luzerne does. And so one of my frustrations these last 3 meetings has been, Ms. Williams, you promised and Romilda promised that you guys would have on the website a running total of what Mr. Morelli asked for today, which was, what is the current backlog of mail-ins? What is the current backlog of registrations? Now, you said the registrations, is that only online? Is that the paper also? Is that total registrations? Is there also, what is the backlog? 2 months ago, this board promised us the backlog of mail-ins. What is it? You said you would have a running total on your website, which has never happened. You've never released a running total on the website. You've released statements, and this week you have no statements. So what is it? There's 13 days left, less than that, because there are only business days left to process these things. So it's even less than that. We have, what is it? 9 days or something like that. So I would like the answer. I've been waiting for 2 months for the answer. What is the backlog of mail-in ballots applications? What is the backlog? Can you please answer that, Miss Manager? Please. And it's also shameful that the director's not here. I don't care how busy it is. In my county, my director's at these meetings. So whether she's busy or not, she's getting paid to be here. She should be here to answer these questions. The manager shouldn't have to only answer these questions. We want accountability as citizens. She should be sitting here.
Thank you.
And if she can't do the job, she should get rid of her. And Ms. Williams, you should resign, frankly. But could
Thank you very
somebody
much.
please answer that question?
Okay, she already
What
did.
is the backlog in mail-in ballot applications?
She
Please.
already did. She
No.
said it before. You might not have
She
been here.
did
You
not
came in a
answer the
little late.
question. What
She
is the
said
total
she's
backlog?
going to get that
Yes,
to
I know,
us.
but you said that 2 months ago. So we've been waiting
time-
for 2
Your
months.
time is up. Thank
You're
you.
out of order.
Thank
I'm
you.
not out of order. You're out of
You're-
order. This
you're
board
raising-
is out of
You're
order.
raising
We've
your
been
voice.
waiting for that
Okay,
answer
your
for
time
2
is
months.
up,
We
and-
should answer the
I'm
question.
going to, okay. Next,
Just for the record, I was the one who actually voted to have people from the outside speak.
yes,
Just for
the
the
board, a majority board passed a vote last meeting that yes, and Mr. Morelli was the one who presented it, that anyone from anywhere can speak now. Okay, and it passed. So just to clear that up. Next, anybody would like to speak?
Hi, Lisa Evans, Dallas Borough. I just wanted to make note on the record. I have a nephew who turned 18 12 weeks ago. They applied for his registration to vote. And still to this night, when you go on the website, it says it's not found. I had a patient come into my office today. He told me that he used to be a Democrat, decided to turn Republican, and put his application in 10 weeks ago, and he still has not received whether or not it's been approved. I also went and voted on demand yesterday. I have 2 children. Well, they're older now, they're adults, but we all went together because they don't live here now. So they are home right now. And we were there for over an hour in order to get our ballots processed. When it was over, it says on the PA voter site that you can hand your ballot to an election official. So I went up to the window and asked if I could hand my ballot in, thinking maybe they stamp it with a time stamp or something like that. So I know that it's accepted. And she told me that she can't touch my ballot because if she touches my ballot, it would be illegal and that my vote wouldn't count. So she said I have to put it in a drop box, which I don't want to do because I don't want to be counted as having my ballot in the drop box. But she insisted. And I did that. But on the website, when you go, it says you could hand it to an official. And I've seen other people who've said in other counties, they've gone and they've actually had their on-demand ballot stamped. So I want to know, is it true that you can hand it to an official or is it only allowed to put it in a drop box?
Not
'Cause
in
when you-
Luzerne County, and there's a reason why, okay?
Okay.
And I can't say specifically what that reason is, but I can tell you that it's a danger that there have been things that have happened in the state that have put certain people in danger, okay? And so we have
Precautionary.
yeah, there's
measures?
precautionary measures to ensure that that the ballots are not handed off specifically to the election workers. Okay. As far as the other things, could you see me after the meeting? Because I'd like to
Sure.
get some of the information
sure, uh-huh.
on these people.
Yep.
And I will ensure that I will get that in an email to the.
Okay, thank you.
the
I have one
office.
more thing. If I'm hearing, last night I was here for the county council meeting, thank you. And they said that one
Give you
of
about
their
15 seconds.
one of their ballots on demand was denied. So I want to know, since mine, I went to check my status today, it went in there yesterday, and it's still saying not processed. But if mine is canceled and I want to go and I want to vote in person because mine was canceled, am I going to be able to go there, or are they going to deny my right to vote because they'll say I already cast a ballot even though it's canceled?
Okay, so no one is going to deny your right to vote. I
Okay.
can promise you that.
I just
okay?
want to make sure.
But a canceled ballot is a ballot, that online ballot that was issued, that was brought to the Bureau, or that was somehow received by the Bureau, that is, or not received by the Bureau, either or it could be. That was one of the 119, like the 119, okay? Those were canceled. Now, if you were issued a mail-in ballot, okay,
Mhm.
and you were part of the 119, that original ballot was canceled. Okay. That original ballot was canceled. Now, if you also were issued a ballot, okay, and you
Yes.
came in and you did an on-demand voting,
Yes.
your first ballot is canceled. Okay. So it's going to show canceled on the website.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it takes a few days for, number one, them to take that out of the Dropbox and process it. And it also takes a few days for the state website, which is extremely slow right now, all over the state, to update that status.
So
Okay.
all these headaches would go away if we never had on
I
demand
agree.
ballots.
I agree with certain
And we
things.
just voted at the polls. All your headaches would
And
go away.
you know what? To Mr. Morelli's point,
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with Luzerne County. There's nothing that
I know,
Luzerne
but
County can do.
Us as the people, we the people have to complain to somebody, and this is where it starts.
I know.
Thank you.
You got to go to your representative, your state.
you.
They have to
Thank you.
repeal Act 77.
Thank you.
I just
Amy
want to add
Walsh.
one, I just want to add one little quick thing, really quick. If you fill out on demand, do a mail-in ballot, and you fill it out and it's deficient in some way, name wrong, no name, date wrong, it could be canceled. And if that happens, then you can go to the poll and vote provisionally. If you don't have your ballot with you, you tell them, they'll always allow you to vote provisionally.
Jamie Walsh, Ross Township. Just a couple of questions. Ms. Crockamo, you said Saturdays and Sundays, they're processing ballots and everything. Are they allowed to go vote in person on those days as well? Or no, that's just, okay, misunderstood. That's all. There is an issue going on with UOCAVA ballots. In fact, it's such an issue that Congressman Muser was a plaintiff on a lawsuit at the state against Al Schmidt and Jonathan Marks, Secretary of Elections. And the suit claims that they're concerned about Iranian nationals that could easily create and submit falsified overseas ballot application in Pennsylvania's November 5th election. So what I'm asking of the board, because I see this being forecasting for what's going to happen after the election, I expect these ballots are probably going to be challenged because there's international interference in our election. So I'm asking that you recommend that these UOCAVA ballots get set aside when they come in from overseas. And
They always are.
I remember from adjudication that they were, but I expect a higher volume of them to come in. And I don't think Congressman Muser has anything less to do than be involved in a lawsuit if he wasn't really concerned about it. And that was filed just a couple of weeks ago. I just want to make you aware to be on alert for that. The second thing that I'd like to say is I'm just really surprised that the chairwoman is not in tears by all these disenfranchised voters. I mean, I figured you'd be bawling your eyes out tonight because of all these disenfranchised voters that you care about so deeply. And instead of trying to drop boxes all throughout the county, maybe you should have been recommending, because now they're buried, you should have been recommending. Ramilda and Emily are taking the brunt of this. I've been in there 3 times over the last week watching them bust their ass because of the lack of your recommendations and preparation. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you very
Jamie,
much.
Jamie, all the ballots, all the overseas ballots all of them are segregated.
Thank
you.
They are, yeah.
And we follow the guidance of our solicitor. If there's any legal litigation going on with anything, mail ballots, military ballots, our solicitors would make us aware of any guidance, anything we need to do with those. Also, I just want to say, a lot of people are throwing around the word disenfranchised here tonight. And that's a very strong word to use to say somebody's disenfranchised. The Election Bureau is working very hard and addressing all the issues that they need to address at a very, very high volume election, which is the presidential elections are always that way. Just no one's been disenfranchised that I'm aware of. I haven't been contacted by anyone so far or the board, and we all have the same email address, and that has been disenfranchised. And we are a board. So if anything we do is by majority vote. So to single out any one member of the board for something that can only be done by a majority vote, I think is wrong. So I'm just going to say that. And also, I think we need to be more careful about using the word disenfranchise. Thank you. Next, anybody else who'd like to speak in person? Next. Thank you.
You can't compel speech, madam. Don't compel people's speech. Thank you.
Robin Koshan, Dallas Township. Some county officials and radical groups have recently tried silencing and punishing public outrage over mishandling our county elections. Yet instead of working hard to get it right after 4 years of botched elections, the chair focused instead on forcing drop boxes, supposedly for convenience and to not disenfranchise any voter. How convenient is it then for someone working until 10 p.m. when the drop box closes at 4:30 p.m. during the week or 8 p.m. on Tuesdays? How is it not voter disenfranchisement when someone does not arrive with the authorization form to deposit multiple ballots in the drop box, then is given one on site and told they must get it completed and return again to deposit the ballots? Even if you think they will make the effort to properly do this, this is voter disenfranchisement. How many times does someone have to try and vote like what occurred during the Papergate election? In 13 days before this historic election, over 6,000 Luzerne County voters are already disenfranchised with confusion over incorrect ballots and being able to receive and return a corrected one in time. Another multitude of voters wait in long lines for several hours to vote on demand because they no longer trust the machines or that paper will be provided on election day. Instead of addressing voter needs, the Bureau is short-staffed even when citizens offer to work as temps or volunteers. Unable to reach the Bureau by phone, numerous voters have to drive to Penn Place to get questions answered, but receive contrary information instead. Ballot room footage shows unsecured mail-in ballots haphazardly heaped in open boxes. Even sheriff's deputies posted at the drop box are not continually monitoring the ballots deposited, and they state the camera is the security, yet no one views all of it, or it's lost, or the county fights public right to knows to view it. If there's nothing to hide and drop boxes are not fraudulent, the county should stop wasting taxpayer money and become transparent instead. All of these problems are locally related, by the way. I didn't even address anything in concert with the state. In truth, drop boxes are not about convenience or eliminating voter disenfranchisement, and you have not achieved voter and election integrity or restored public trust. Thanks for the apology, but it doesn't correct the repeated assault to our basic right to free and fair elections.
Thank you. Anybody else in person?
Desiree Edwards, Swarsville. In 2020 presidential election, I selected straight ticket. When I reviewed my ballot, it switched straight ticket to the opposite party, not just once or twice. I had to then do everyone separate, and then I reviewed my ballot and it came up properly. Another election, when our ballot appeared, when the poll worker came over and put the card in, when the ballot appeared, at the top, it said Democratic ballot. I yelled for the poll worker. He came back and he goes, "Oh, it's all right because it has all the Republican candidates." And me not even thinking, I'm like, "Oh, okay." So how do I know? Like, even if I reviewed it afterwards and looked at my printed paper, how do I know when it went in through the tabulator that something wasn't changed? And why was it Democrat on top of a Republican ballot anyway? So that's another mistake. My father's ballot, I already explained this. My father never did mail-in. Took him and they said that he did a mail-in ballot. So obviously somebody got my father's vote. And then we had the paper gate. Okay, today I was on the live cam for the ballot room. Baskets with just ballots piled and piled and piled, just thrown on a desk. They were not secured. They were not in a cage and locked. We were told that there will be enough staff and it's all taken care of. That obviously didn't happen either. And then what about the chargers that the poll books that are going to go out for the people that are going to be poll watchers or poll workers when they went to their training, that they were told that you'll get a poll book, it'll be fully charged, okay, but we're not given the chargers to go with them because last election nobody brought them back. But don't worry, they'll be fully charged. So is that the next thing that's going to happen at our election? And is that what is going to cause chaos where we're so worried about safety for our poll workers and poll watchers and everybody else except the citizens?
Thank you. Anybody else in person?
Romelda, I hope you don't mind me asking, how long do the batteries last on the poll books? Do you know?
Just so that everybody is aware that they will be, there's a cord that will be with the poll books and they're connected to the power all day long with the printer. It's the extra charger that's not going to be included. So
Okay.
It will be charged. It's a green cord.
So there will be a charger. The extra charger is not the one.
Correct.
Thank you.
And you shouldn't have to use the extra charger, but
Yeah.
you'll have the green. There's an extra iPhone charger that's in the case. And that's what we're keeping in the
Can we address that with, maybe with, training to let them know, to make it clear that this is the extra charger that's not going, so that it's not.
Well, that's what was said, but
Yeah.
it's a green cord that will be plugged in all day long.
Okay,
So the machines will be charged.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, Audrey Cernak, Plains Township, Luzerne County. I have to commend the board bureau and the board and the bureau management for the difficult job they are doing to conduct this election. And I'm confident that the manager is going to pull enough staff to get this job done and to get everything processed in time. I'd also like to commend the board for not going on any hearsay. There are always a lot of rumors regarding the process, the election processes. And if someone has an issue, they can bring it up to the Bureau or to another authority to be looked into. I'd also like to say people can choose how they vote. This to me has been wonderful to have these different choices. You could go to the polls where you can actually have to stand in line for a long time. Depends on the time of day, depends on the election, you have to stand in line, maybe take time. Can do ballot on demand. It's kind of an inefficient process. It's available, but again, it does take time. It comes back down to convenience. People are complaining. I had to wait for my ballot on demand. Well, that's their choice. I applied for a mail-in ballot. I got my mail-in ballot. I filled it out. I took it down to Penn Place to drop it in the box. To be honest with you, I didn't even have a long wait at security. I was in and out of there inside of, I think, 6-7 minutes. Again, that's my choice. That's my time. I decided to use it that way, to spread it out, get my ballot, fill it out at home, bring it in. No lines waiting. I go to the polls, maybe I'll have to wait in a line. That's my choice. I go to do ballot on demand. Again, it's inconvenient. Well, people say it shouldn't be about convenience. Well, there you have it. You have your choice. So, that's your choice. You're going to have to take the time. Let's see. I'd just like to say that there's a lot of rumors going around, a lot of bad talk, a lot of vicious talk in some cases about the board and the Bureau, mostly the board. I got to say, under the leadership of the chair, a lot of processes have been instituted. A lot of things have been straightened out. I can name things, just basically all the business of the accumulation of votes. We used to have a process for a very haphazard process of accumulating votes. We've moved to going through the court process, which is actually in the code. And we're following the code. There's the way we used to account the write-in ballots. Again, very, very haphazard. We now have a process in place, which if somebody challenged us in court, challenged the board in court, the Office of Law could actually defend that process. There's a rational process way of doing it. I just like to thank the board for instituting all these and following the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in person?
A question about the machine that you said that prints out the ballots. What can we do about that? Can we get another machine involved? Is it just a printer?
From what I understand, okay, and that's not much, okay, because I'm working there. But from what I understand, this comes from the state, and it's not something that is very easily attainable as far as that's concerned. Okay, it does take time to print this out. There are special marks on it that it has to be programmed in for specifically your precinct. Okay, has to be a ballot specifically for your precinct. It has to be specific to you. Okay, as a voter, it has to be specific to that voter. Along with the envelope and everything else that needs to be tailored to that person. And they do a great job at it, but it does take a little bit of time. And with processing all of these people, I'm not going to lie, we need a better system. Okay, we do need a better system. And there was, plenty of warning. I don't have the answers. Okay.
So at this point, in order is there any way that we can go to the state and say, this is the situation? Look, we're a big county. We need this. We need to catch up. What can we do?
I
See what
can
they have.
certainly look
I mean,
into
if there's
that.
If there's a way, can we at least make that request to the state and see
I
what we
can
do? Because
absolutely look into that. I promise that. I can look into that. And you have the county manager here listening to this too. So she'll definitely look into it.
because we understand that there's so much to do. And if this is going to slow things down, I'm just worried that it's not going to get done in time, like everybody else is worried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in person?
I'm a concerned citizen of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
You can say your name and stuff. You're allowed here and you're allowed to be speaking.
My speech will not be compelled or infringed in any way. Thank you. So the last time I was at this meeting, the chairperson sought to silence, compel, or tell people what they can or cannot say. So I'm going to say what I want to say during the speech. Disenfranchise, disenfranchise, disenfranchise. That doesn't really get counted until election day. It happens in the weeks leading up to the election. It happens when you run out of ballot paper on election day, like in 2022. It happens when polling stations have locked doors and people can't go inside, like it happened in 2022. It happens when polling staff aren't properly trained to help voters when they are trying to figure out how to use the machines correctly, like what happened in 2022. Now, I've seen this board ask, whether or not, do we know how many mail-in ballot processing applications we are behind? Anybody? Do we know how many voter registration forms we are from behind?
Yes, that number is 2,500 currently. in queue.
2,500 with 2 weeks
That is
left until the
online
election.
only.
Online only. Yeah, nobody brought that up. That is voter disenfranchisement. You are responsible. The buck stops with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in person? Please.
Just to qualify,
Yes.
when we asked about when I asked about the registrations, I asked for online and paper.
Thank you.
And so am I to understand that the registration is 25 online and does not include the paper?
Not as far as I know. I don't know.
Okay.
She
sir,
said in
your time is
queue,
up.
so I imagine it's online only.
Go ahead. You're next.
Hi, my name is Lisa Napersky. I'm from Fairview Township. And I just wanted to say that I'm just wondering where a lot of these folks were 6 months ago, a year ago, saying that we need more funding, because there was congressional hearing about issues with the county, and it's not a time to come and berate the Board of Elections this close to an election when they're not going to be able to get funding suddenly to hurry up and do something about it. And I think I'm not sure what the complaint was about earlier, but it's obviously just a dog and pony show to create confusion and possibly chaos and throw the word disenfranchisement around to just put it out there that to put in people's mind that there's a problem before there even is a problem. And it's the same playbook that the MAGA wackos used previously. And it's just, number one, create the sense that there's some type of chaos. Number two, make things go as slowly as possible to try to create inefficiency. And then on
Excuse me,
election
sir,
day.
Sir. Yeah, I'll ask for you to be removed. She's
Everyone has a
speaking.
right to the free speech, guys.
And then on election day, if mail-in ballots come in and they're counted slowly, which they probably will be again this year because there are a lot of them, to say, oh, they're creating votes. Look, it's voter fraud. And it's just the same exact playbook that they used before. But I just want to thank the Board of Elections. I know that you do not control the purse strings, that probably every single one of you would stand up and shout for if it was said that you needed more staff or more help at the Board of Elections to if it was up to you to vote to hire them, whatever was needed. And I think that people need to talk if they really think that there needs to be more, I've been to press conferences saying we need to beef up the election, the Bureau of Elections. So I want to thank you guys for what you do. And I'm sorry that you have to be berated and put down like this. This is a time when we should be standing behind you to get through the election.
Thank you.
You did say stand up and say something. I will say there needs to be more staff. We do need more staff.
I don't disagree.
As far as my opinion. Okay, that's just my opinion, my personal opinion. I want to make that clear.
Thank you.
I don't disagree, and I'm not sure exactly how the funding stream works, but my guess is we should be talking to our state legislators about it, and but it's not the Board of Elections doesn't control the purse strings of this.
Thank you. Anybody else in person?
Good evening. My first question for this board is, who is the chairman? Are you the chair or is Alyssa the chair? Because I'm seeing an awful lot of answers from Melissa. A lot of answers from Melissa. I hear nothing from Denise Williams, and you're the chair. Would it be possible to possibly stifle the vice chair long enough so we can get through a meeting? We had the downstairs voting. I received an email about somebody questioning whether I was checking somebody's voter ID. People were voluntarily giving me their IDs at the desk. I was there for 2.5 weeks. I didn't see one board member there yet. Not one. There's 5 of you. Now, I know Mr. Morelli works and I know Alyssa works, but I haven't seen anybody at that table for 2.5 weeks. The law allows people to come in and vote on demand. If you would read the statute, it says they have to produce a driver's license to get a ballot. Okay? Just for your edification. That's the other issue. I saw duplicate ballots myself, Mr. Schramm. Myself. These 2 eyes. 2 of them. It's not hearsay. I saw it. 3 people came in with duplicate ballots. I sent the one person upstairs to the deputy director. He saw them. It's not hearsay. Just to be clear, they did happen. I saw them today as well. People were waiting 2 hours to vote in person. 2 hours. That's not fair. It's not fair to anybody to have to wait 2 hours to get a ballot. I don't care where they're voting. That's true. I was there. I saw it. I saw people come in and leave because they weren't going to wait in line. I saw people that couldn't put more than one ballot in the ballot box and were disenfranchised and said, I'm not voting. I saw that. They told me themselves. Because the state didn't put the verbiage on the envelope that said if you're dropping off your ballot, you can only drop off yours. So I've had many people come to the table because they were sent there to tell me that they wanted to know how they could drop in their wife's ballot. And I said, you can't. You have to put a stamp on it. And they said, then I'm not going to vote. And they walked out of the building. And if that's not disenfranchisement, I don't know what is. You call it what you want, Madam Chair, but that is disenfranchisement. Why is the board able to demand drop boxes, but you can't demand a deadline? I don't understand. The gentleman in here stood at this podium and asked, what is the deadline to get these voter registrations done? What is the deadline that this board is going to impose on the Bureau to get the mail-in ballots counted? Nobody said a word, but we can make a demand that they're going to be drop boxes because we're the board. And we can sue the county to do it, but that's not even a legal process. But that's okay. But you can't demand the Bureau to get these registrations counted so these people aren't disenfranchised? No, can't do that. I find it really funny, and I'm going to wrap up. I find it really funny that the person who calls me every single day about what's going on in the Bureau of Elections is Alyssa. And she sits here and defends that board, defends that bureau to the hilt about what they're doing or what they're not doing. But she's the one that's complaining constantly, either to the press or to me. And I find it really, really, to me, very disingenuous. If you have an issue with something, have an issue all the time. Don't sit here at this board meeting and say how wonderful everything is going and there's nobody being disenfranchised, but then call me and say, I got a problem. There's 4,000 ballots not counted. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? Don't do that. That's not accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other in person?
Nina Ropa, Kingston Township. I was wishing Mr. Hahn would be here because the other day I got a phone call from a friend who just happened to be down at the Bureau and saw that I had said that I didn't get my ballot. We turned our applications in, my husband and I, the end of September. He got his about 2 weeks ago. I didn't get mine. And my friend checked, and you talk about the word disenfranchisement, but I'm telling you, I was told that my ballot was declined because it said there, Mr. Hahn checked on it. He actually called me at 7:30 that night. God bless him. Because I was declined because I was down as having gotten absentee ballots. I never in my life got an absentee ballot. I have for years gone to the polls. And he said that he corrected that for me, and God bless him. However, he said I'd be getting the ballot in a week, which now it's a week, and I haven't gotten it. And I understand that I am in a lot of company that I didn't get that. So I don't like the word declined. You know, I sat in tears over that. Me, I'm telling you, I told you last time, I became a Republican 40 years ago. And I'm telling you, I have worked tirelessly all these years. And I never, ever, ever saw the word declined on my status. Now, I learned what freedom meant and means. And it doesn't mean some of these silly things that Democrats think it means today. I know that I'm talking about the freedom that the God-given freedom to live our lives without jackbooted thugs from the government trying to control us and take away our rights. I had learned how much voting means to me when I became a Republican. I lived in a town about 2,000 people back then, and I took it solely upon myself to canvass the entire town to get registered to vote. I think I must have been channeling Scott Pressler before he was even born. I voted early in 2022, only to come home and hear on the radio precinct after precinct after precinct didn't get paper. And I sat here in this very room with people in tears because they did not get to vote. And you know, 2 years later, it still is in my craw that in the United States of America, people were turned away from the ballot box. And I'm going to say right now, you can take my hand, you can take my arm, but do not take my vote. And if you don't understand that, you shouldn't be in these seats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in person?
Tony Zambito, Swayersville. I just want to speak to the on-demand in-person voting, which I went to do today. And there's also a gentleman here from Hanover. He was in the same group I was in. But start to finish, it was 2 hours. First of all, I had to circle the block several times to find a parking spot. Got in. Walter Griffith was working the table. It was roughly 10 o'clock. First thing, he gets a call when I get in there. There's the state system's down. It's going to be another half hour added to the wait. Okay. Well, I already taken time off to do that, unpaid, but I was there. So in the meantime, filling out the paperwork, I had to produce a driver's license, which I voted in person. Nobody ever asked me for a driver's license. First time I ever did the on-demand voting, but so from that point, waited downstairs roughly 45 minutes. Our group got called upstairs. Still, the people before us were still waiting. They weren't processed up there yet. So we're up there, maybe another 45. Then we get into smaller office. So then the gentleman from Hanover's wife had a question. And so I rang the bell. So, and I'll testify to what he said about the gentleman told him about 15 minutes to process each ballot. In the meantime, just my observation, some of the staff working in there very nonchalantly, no urgency to what was going on. The room was filled with people just walking back and forth, looking out. No urgency to, I don't know. I had people like that working for me, they'd be gone. But that's just some of the things I want to say. And I also observed the gentleman that Mr. Griffith spoke about with him and his wife's ballot. And what that gentleman, and Walter spoke to him, told him that he couldn't put them both in. So he went, he put his in. He went outside, he came back in, and he put the other one in. Nobody's observing boxes. When I left, there's a box upstairs in the election bureau office. Now they say there's one box in Penn Place. No, there's actually two. All right. So I didn't want to put mine in there. I walked downstairs with some of the group of the people that I was with, and we stood around the box. And guess what? I could have stuffed as many, if I had enough ballots, I could have stuffed them in. There's a camera there, but you can't see where the people standing around the box. Security guards are occupied, the people coming in. So they're not safe and secure. And it's a bunch of bull crap that you think they are. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else in person? Oh, go ahead.
Mark Rabo, Hazelton. For the past 2 months plus, Madam Chair, you and your surrogates wanted to impose your will in assertion that the ballot drop boxes are legal, which they are not. I don't care if you keep bringing up this Miss Buckvar and her imposition during the Governor Wolf issuing the emergency declaration. It is over. Period, point blank. It's over. So I don't care about you and your socialist surrogates that cry like lost little puppies, saying it's a convenience, it's all this and that. It does not matter. According to the eyes of the law, it does not matter. Show me where it says in Act 77 of 2019 that ballot drop boxes are legal, a legal means of delivering a mail-in ballot. Show me where it says it in the law. And you, by definition, you said on many occasions that you're for following the law. You haven't. Your socialist surrogates haven't. All you do is accuse, make scurrilous comments about conservatives, MAGAs, whatever you want to call them. Okay, you haven't produced a single shred of viable evidence that shows that ballot drop boxes are legal in accordance with right now the law, which is Act 77 of 2019. Just because a bunch of Stepford wives on the state Supreme Court said it back in 2020 does not make it ad infinitum legal. Doesn't. It does not. Okay? Unless you could show me a US Supreme Court ruling or a state Supreme Court ruling backing a statutory mandate that's already in place, it's not legal. You can't enforce it. And by the way, the state attorney general, Michelle Henry, the lame duck attorney general who threatened the county manager with criminal penalties, I'd like to see where it says that in the commission sentencing guidelines from the commission in Harrisburg. It doesn't say it. And lastly, 40 out of the 67 counties throughout the state do not have ballot drop boxes. Only 27. So show me where it says that that's uniform under Article 7, Section 6 of the state constitution, where it says all election and registration laws shall be uniform throughout the Commonwealth. It's not. Only Lackawanna and Luzerne counties have multiple ballot drop boxes. The other counties that surround our county don't. So I'm sorry, but I got to say, I just want you to follow the law and stop threatening our county manager and our county council, and learn the difference between local government and state government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Potsko, Hanover Township. I was going to talk about something tonight, but it was pretty well covered. So I'm going to try to give some potentially sound advice instead. So I'm a process engineer. In a manufacturing process, if there's 3 steps, one takes 15 minutes, the next takes an hour, and then the third takes 15 minutes. You can't complete that process in less than an hour and a half. An hour and a half in line at a ballot location does constitute voter disenfranchisement. So to say that it makes sense that somebody should be able to should have to wait an hour and a half at a on-demand voting place is wrong. When a manufacturing process has that bottleneck of an hour in that one process, you apply manpower, you apply machinery, and you apply hours. You have to apply something to reduce that bottleneck and bring that closer to 15 minutes so that each step can take 15 minutes and get people out in a normal amount of time. So there are people that are trained to do this. They look at processes, they figure out how to make it more streamlined. Industrial engineers, process engineers, hire one. Bring somebody in before the next election to figure out how to get an extra machine in. Multiple people to come in and understand that machine and be able to use it when there's an influx of people. And when there's a lull in the day, they can go and work on registrations and different things like that. If you don't understand how to manage a process, there are people that do, and we should be utilizing that and hiring people that know what they're doing in that sense. So that's kind of what the advice that I had, and I voted on demand. It took me 45 minutes because they were short-staffed on a Friday before a holiday weekend, and people took off. And so I waited over 45 minutes, and then my ballot was canceled, even though it had the name correctly. I'm in the 119th. So I got a second ballot in the mail. It was fixed on October 11th. I voted on October 11th, and somehow I ended up with a second ballot that was mailed to me. I will be filling that in and dropping it off, which means I'll be going back to Penn Place to do that, which I don't think I should have had to do. Yes, that is disenfranchisement. I don't believe that that it's being run well, and there are ways to fix it. It was brought up in the beginning that there were 2,500 registrations that needed to be processed. Then it came out that that's only electronic. How many paper registrations do we have? You don't have anything other than electronic registrations?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate something that's already been said about the 119, is that, and it's been put out in the media multiple times, that if a person sends back the canceled one, the first one, and they don't send back the second, then the first one will be counted. The board is going to be going through a process, a painstaking process, like we always do, with a fine-tooth comb after the election, to go through all of those to make sure everything is square, just like we did when this happened with the Wilkes-Barre. And it was a little involved. It could take 1 to 2 days just to make sure everything is exact. So I just want to say to the board, get rest up. And the Bureau helps us with that, and we'll be addressing that after the fact. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bob Bajeski, and I'm a lifelong resident of Duryea in Luzerne County. My place of business is in Lackawanna County, as well as my church. And I've been equally active in both counties, both helping new voters to register, as well as to encourage mail-in for those where it's appropriate. I wanted to make known to the board a couple of challenges that I've been finding in Luzerne County that seem to be something I'm finding in this county, but not in Lackawanna County when I'm doing the same work there. Number one is the time to process. I'm finding on average, it's taking 2 to 3 times or longer to process a new registration and get the mail-in ballot in the voters' hands than it is in Lackawanna County. There's been many that we've dropped off on a Monday at Lackawanna County at the office. It's been processed, mailed out, and in the voters' hands by Friday. I haven't seen that at all in our county. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up. One of the problems I see with that is that if there are errors, and it's very easy to have errors on new registrations, all it takes, especially with the mail-in voting, they cross-reference it with the Pennsylvania DMV. And if there's a mismatched middle initial or even an apartment abbreviation, which is different on the driver's license, it doesn't get processed. And I've known because I've helped people to do this online, and it'll tell you immediately, unable to match to the DMV. Well, if you do it online, you see that error. But if it's a paper one we've submitted or somebody submitted to the county, and it takes 2 to 3 or 4 weeks to process it, they don't know about that error. Yes, I understand they'll get a letter in the mail at some point to fix it, but the election likely will be over at that point. And I can see that as a disenfranchised voter because it's very easy to happen. There's been people who I've submitted them for back in September, and they've still never gotten that letter. We found that there was an error because it was never put on the website. And I've seen in Lackawanna, for instance, a person named Matthew, who was it was processed on 10/5, mailed out on 10/6. Scott received 10/7, processed, mailed out on 10/8. Noelia received on 10/17, mailed on 10/18. However, I have a tenant named James, and we submitted his mail-in because he drives all over the state. He didn't think he'd get to the polls that day. We submitted it in September. It was shown on the website, processed 10/1, and under mailed, it's still blank. So I called on 10/17 and I told them that situation. And the response I got when I called Luzerne County voter office was, oh, another one. We'll add it to the list and make sure we get them another one. I said, well, why do they need another one? They said, because it got lost somewhere in the process. The other issue that I'm seeing is the website not being updated. I know there's been some deflection to the state saying they're not updating it quick enough, but that's not what I'm seeing in Lackawanna County for many of the ones we've helped people submit. It's being, they're showing that it's right through the process of when it's received and mailed. But in Luzerne County, there's many that still haven't been shown from 3-4 weeks ago. So why would the state be slow in Luzerne County, but sometimes the next day updating it in Lackawanna?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Time's up. Anybody else in person?
Thank you.
Mike Stash from Lehman Township. Just have a few questions. The first one is, and it would be for a matter of public record. Are we at the polling location? Are we allowed to take a picture of our ballot?
Yes.
Okay, so just want to get that out there because a lot of people are kind of afraid of doing that. So that's
No,
public knowledge.
As long as you're
public
not
record.
getting anyone else in the photo.
Right, right. It would just be specifically when it comes out of the printer and okay.
Or anyone else's ballot.
Right, right. The second question has to do with the mail-in ballots and the envelope. And there seems to be a QR code or a barcode on the ballot, on the envelope. Do you know what information is contained in that QR code? As it's still run through the Runbeck sorting machine?
So it's run through the Runbeck machine and I don't know, but I believe that it is scanned. Are you talking? Because I think there's one on the outer envelope of the, like before they open them, right? And that's for voter information, state voter information. Yeah, so I think you're talking about not the actual ballot envelope. I think you're talking about the ballot, the envelope that the ballot comes in.
Well, I'm not quite sure myself.
Yeah, and
have
I think
seen-
that's
I've
got
seen-
PA voter information on it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty
So-
sure that's what you're talking about.
All right, so the run back machine then just, okay, yeah, I mean, here's a good example. There is a QR code right on this
Can
official.
I see it?
Yeah,
Sorry, Mike. We're all handling here. Okay, that code is for tracking for the voter itself.
okay. So it has.
Goes through the machine.
Right, so.
Tells us whether you voted or not, or if that's a canceled ballot or not, or all that kind of stuff.
So it does contain other information, right? Party affiliation, perhaps? in
I
that part?
couldn't answer that.
Okay. Just curious, you know. All right, and then my final question is, for polling locations, are we prepared if there is a power outage of some sort? Do we have not only paper, but actually printed or the ability to print ballots? So people can fill them out if we have a problem with the machines.
There are contingency plans in place. The county manager has already spoken on that for all situations, and power outages is one of them. And that's something that could happen at any election. And there are, in the poll worker training, the poll workers are also advised on what would happen if the power goes out. The ballot marking devices themselves, the batteries last quite a while. The scanners don't. So what they do is they would put the ballots that got printed out from the ballot marking device they could put them into the emergency slot. They could also, they have so many emergency ballots that could be filled out while the power is out, put that in the emergency spot until the power comes back on.
Okay.
So in the meantime, the any judge would be contacting the Bureau to let them know what's going on, and they certainly can send a rover out. They can address that, and they would be working with that judge on addressing any situation. So there are plans in place for all of that.
Okay, just so we, you know, because we are expecting a higher than normal turnout, so I just want to be prepared. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Next.
Before we go on to the next person, I do want to say that, you know, the Controller Griffith had made mention that, that I should be silenced. And I'm just letting you know that just like everybody else here has an opportunity to speak, I do too. And I have freedom of speech, and that will not be infringed. I also wanted to state that I did call Walter as soon as I found out about these numbers, because I called him in a panic. As soon as I heard about these numbers, who's the one person that can get to the bottom of it? The county controller. And I apologize for putting faith in the fact that you could handle this. So I just want to make that very clear real quick. I did call. Absolutely. I called him. I called everybody I could get my hands on to find out what the heck we could do and how to fix it. All right. And sorry for thinking that this could be, you know, gotten to the bottom of, because we, like I said, we have some links broken right now in this county. And I'm trying to fix that by not, you know, by calling the right people. And that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to make that very clear.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Jay Kaminsky, Fairmont Township. I just want to thank the 3 members of the board for their decision to keep the 2 drop boxes in Wilkes-Barre and Hazelton. I know you've heard a lot of noise from the same 10 or 20 people that keep coming up here every single week, but they're really not representative of our county or our democracy. So I really appreciate the resiliency in your decision. Also, I just want to share personally, I love the decision to keep drop boxes. A little far from me. I'm a rural farmer from Fairmont Township, own a 30-acre farm, work full-time job, own a other small business. I don't have the time to wait in line and don't really trust the mail to get the ballots there in time. So I really appreciate that decision. About a 45-minute drive. I wish there'd be more drop boxes, particularly in rural areas, but I really appreciate the decision and commend you for your resiliency. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Andrea Glad Wilkes-Barre. I'm not going to take the whole 30, whatever it is, time. I just want to say, unlike what apparently is a lot of people here, I applied for my ballot on time. I got my ballot on time. I submitted my ballot on time, and it was on record that they had received it and processed it on time. So despite what we're hearing, somebody, someplace is doing the job, and they're doing it well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, same thing happened for me. I applied for mine, put it in a Dropbox, and it was received. Okay, next. Anybody else?
Hi, do I get to be last? Claudia Glenn in Salem Township. There's obviously a lot of contention. I'm sure that there are some problems that still can be addressed and things can run smoother, but I want to thank the board. I cannot imagine doing a voluntary job with the hours that you all put in and the abuse that you take. I wish everybody could be a little more considerate of that. I also wish that people would take note of things before 10 days before an election. I work with several community groups on working on pro-voter agenda, and part of that agenda was to get sufficient funding from the county to hire sufficient staff so our election bureau wasn't overwhelmed and we just get written off. That's part of what the Marxist socialists do. I'm being very sarcastic. I don't consider myself in that area at all. And I want to thank you. And I want to say, since I'm not in the ballot this time, that I'm right now volunteering to help adjudicate. And I also wonder, was Mr. Griffin down there being paid while he was down there, while all of you, he's expecting to come in and spend more voluntary hours? Just a question. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Brianna Ripka. I'm from Fairmont Township. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm the Voter Services Coordinator with the State League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania and also a Luzerne County voter. Our organization is a nonpartisan organization that focuses on voter education. I just want to express my heartfelt appreciation for the chairwoman, Ms. Williams, and her dedicated efforts, particularly in implementing and managing the drop boxes. Her leadership and commitment to improving our processes have made a significant difference, and we are grateful for her hard work and vision. Ms. Williams, you should be proud of your work, and we commend you for it. Thank you for all you do in supporting democracy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else out in the atrium? Okay, we'll go to the Zoom online platform. Mr. Herring?
Good evening, Ben Herring, Duryea. Before I get to my comments, I want to make some corrections on some of the previous comments that were made. Number one, the League of Women Voters is definitely not nonpartisan. No, that's very clear. Number two, Farmer Boy threw his insults again. What you've noticed tonight, once again, is that the people that are always there, who have been there for a long time, continuously address the board with issues that face them as citizens and taxpayers of Luzerne County. And what you get from the radical left that show up in strength in numbers tonight, I guess there's 4 of them, is just insults. That's all they do. And richly, what I heard tonight was Ms. Cerniak talk about how we should be very careful about what we say to the Board of Elections. But I thought that was Mrs. Freedom of Speech there, who got triggered last time and started screaming. So the hypocrisy never ends. It's amazing. All right, on to my comments. The turbulence of what we're dealing with, and I know Mr. Morelli, I hear it in his voice. He's frustrated. I hear Ms. Visaro's frustrated. Unfortunately, we have 13 days to an election. If things go awry, that room's going to be 10 times the size with people in it. And I think the turbulence is due to the chairwoman. I really do. This started for me when I started noticing in 2022 what happened with Papergate. We showed up after that situation occurred. We got 0 answers So we had to do a right to know request. That is still in litigation. You have not answered any of those questions. There was no surveillance, or at least there was admittedly not a lot of surveillance on the drop boxes until Mr. Mangan requested that there be a bipartisan review of that footage. So you admitted that you didn't even look at it beforehand. So drop boxes without footage, how do you even know what's happening to those? That happened on your watch. You have a continuous contempt for Republican citizens at every single one of these meetings. As soon as somebody from your side of the aisle gets up and speaks, you applaud them. As soon as somebody from the other side of the aisle gets up and speaks, you make facial expressions, you do everything in your power. You probably have to sit there and bite your tongue. You're probably burning up inside. And the fact that you've never answered any of these questions, the Election Bureau has to pay for it. Ms. Crocomo has to pay for it. Mr. Rose sitting there tonight has to pay for it. Emily and Steve Hahn, who helped me out earlier, are doing a fantastic job. They're doing all they can. But it's due to your dereliction of duty as the chairwoman of that board. You have been part of this for 2 years. There's been nonstop issues for 2 years. I don't know how you continue to keep that seat. I hope somebody does something about it in the council or in the new commission that was formed. But I really wish before this election, the most important election of our lifetimes, you would resign. Thank you.
Mr. Herring, the right to know request that you put in, you often reference the board with it, and myself personally, but the right to know request that you are involved with litigation is with the county. It's not with the Board of Elections. So we can't provide, the board can't provide you with anything because we're not involved in that lawsuit. The second thing is, I know you mentioned you called this gentleman Farmer Boy. And I just want to say, you know, I think that's kind of out of line, especially for someone who's on the ACE Commission for the county. So I just want
You
to share
allow
that.
when they say it every single time. So don't even start that. You allow them every single time. Do not even begin that.
I'm just saying, I'm just sharing my.
Wacky MAGAs is okay, but
I
Farmer Boy's
never,
not, right?
ever
Let's
said
set the
that
record straight.
ever.
Let's
No,
set the
but
record
you
straight.
also did not say anything when that person said it. So you can't say anything about his
Thank
name
you. I
calling
wasn't
if there,
speaking
you
to you,
can't say
Miss
anything.
Alyssa.
But I'm just saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Sure. And I can also share that I think that's inappropriate for someone on the ACE.
So is Wacky MAGAs.
They're not on the ACE Commission. Thank you. Next, Miss Jordan.
You just
Hello,
proved my
everybody.
point. You just proved my
Miss
point,
Jordan?
Denise.
Hello,
Jordan?
can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. So Deborah Jordan, Sugarloaf Township. I just want to say a very few things that something I do find ironic, hypocritical is a prior speaker wanting an apology for the board because you are being berated. But I believe that woman who spoke owes people in the room and online an apology for calling other people names, specifically MAGA weirdo. I also would like to say that that same woman brought up the fact that certain people were purposely slowing down the process, and that was a playbook of some sort. So I'm just wondering if Beth Gilbert is also following that playbook by dropping off all those numerous dated from June applications, the deadline being so near. So I just wanted to point out those two very hypocritical things and answer a question that same woman asked. Where have we been for the past 6 months, 6 years, whatever? We have been working and we have been studying. We are not proficient in name calling because we are working. And here's some of the things I've been working on. Number one, I spoke with the Auditor General's office about the SURE system. Okay, the SURE system is not usable and workable according to our own government. Data found tens of thousands of duplicate and inaccurate voter rolls. Breaking this down further, there were 51,000 cases of duplicate driver license numbers, inaccuracies in date of birth, another 3,000 deceased voters. Furthermore, it was found that there were 97,000, yes, I said 97,000 inactive voters still on the rolls, and an additional 66,000 inactive voters whose records should have been canceled. That's hundreds of thousands of your inaccuracy. That is why we do this. We are not here to take away an opportunity to vote. We're not pointing out anyone specifically because of race, creed, religion, sexual orientation. This is for voter security. The reason we do this is because our own government, our own Auditor General has found these problems. There's other things that are problematic. There's no stopgate features to prevent the inclusion of duplicate driver's license. There's no hard stop features on the SURE system for duplicate social security numbers. There's no edit checks in place to ensure an applicant's address is in the correct county or even the correct state. Furthermore, something I really would like to point out about the SURE system, and that is the fact that it is not in a read-only format. Now, that means that people that have access, including not even one non-Commonwealth employee came up on the Auditor General's report. Read-only format is something we should be using we don't have that, so anybody who has access can actually adjust the system.
Thank you.
Very much welcome. Thank you.
Mr.
Hey,
Schaefer?
Deb, I'd like to get some of that information that you have. So I'll reach out to you and we'll get that because I'd like to see what you've got. But I do want to say that inactive voters have to stay on the rolls, okay? Because they can actually reactivate by going to the polls. So
yes, I do know that they go into inactive
Okay.
status. Thank you so much for mentioning that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Mr. Schaefer?
Hey, Mark Schaefer, Wilkes-Barre. I'd like to start my comments similar to how I did last time, and again, just thank the board and commend you for sitting here for how many hours and dealing with all this. I'm sorry you have to go through all this. But I just wanted to say that I think people need to keep in mind like how the system in our county works. So I was one of the people who did vote today, and I did go to the early in-person mail-in ballot, and it did take 2 hours. Like it was a very slow process, but what I saw when I was there was people from other departments in the county having to do work at the Bureau of Elections because they just need more staff. And people at this meeting have tried to say that that's somehow Denise's fault, or even Manager Crockemo's fault, but that's the county council's fault. If you're upset that there's not enough people at the Bureau of Elections, you should go to the next county council budget meeting and talk about how the Bureau of Elections needs an increase in funding. The board does not have control over funding in any way, shape, or form. What they do have control over is policy. That's why they can do things like say, we are going to have drop boxes because that's a policy decision. They do not have staffing authority. So when people talk about how we have all these problems with things being slow, that's a result of underfunding. You should be going and yelling at county council, not the Board of Elections. There are reasons to be upset with the way elections are run in America in general, in county in Pennsylvania. There are definitely inefficiencies, but remember to go to the right person. And Walter Griffith did reference an email. That was my email. I was wondering so when we came in, we signed in, Walter was taking driver's license and writing down people's names and I think zip code. And I wasn't trying to get Walter in trouble or anything. I was genuinely wondering, my understanding is you do not need to present driver's license when you are getting your mail-in ballot. You just need to present it if you are using your driver's license as your driver's license number on your application. I, for instance, use my social security number, so my driver's license would be irrelevant because I have my social security number memorized. So my clarification and my question was just, are we asking everyone to show a driver's license before they do the early vote in person? Because my understanding is that is not the rule. And I just want to make sure, like, if someone doesn't have a driver's license, they're totally allowed to go and vote. And if they can provide their social security number and they can be verified in the system. So I just wanted to thank the board again for, like, people are trying to make it a partisan thing, but the board is doing their best. Like, you guys have to deal with a lot of nonsense, and I appreciate it. And people need to, there are problems in the county, and go to county council and talk about how your Bureau of Elections needs more funding.
Thank you very much.
So you do not need to necessarily bring your ID unless the HR system calls for your ID. You do need
Yeah.
to provide either the form or the driver's license number or the last four of your social security number. I believe it states on that form. But you don't need to worry about it because Walter has decided now he doesn't want to work downstairs anymore. So we lost a person working accepting those. So, and I have work full-time job tomorrow, so I won't be there either. So I'd love to see how, so now we're short even more people downstairs.
Anybody else online like to speak? I don't see any hands raised, but if you're on a phone line, just jump right in. Give you a minute. You'd unmute and just speak. Doesn't appear that there's anybody else for public comment.
I'll make a motion, adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Morelli makes.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Pissarro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions, opposition, none heard. The meeting's adjourned at 8:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.